Well, hello, and wow, this is our first live stream. I'm Mr. Stan913, and I guess you can all guess what my name is. My name is Stan, and to my left, I have my wife, the one who does all the crafts on our page, my wife Dorothy, who is probably we put mostly all the crafts, all the posts are mostly her crafts, but as you see, we do have out on our page some products that we demo, that we buy from time to time, and also some places that we have visited or things we've done on our trips that we have visited. Um, so we thought, how could we create a a live stream, and what can we talk about? And we started going recently to some historic hotels and started seeing like, wow, these are pretty cool, nice to see, nice to do. There's a lot of areas to places to shop. So our main topic today is going to be historic hotels that we have visited in the past year and during the COVID crisis, that we just videoed from time to time. We had some fun there, didn't we, Darth, on some of these trips?
Yeah, and the whole point of this video, I think, is just to give some pointers and tips of what we liked, what we didn't like, kind of compare the four hotels that we visited so far. And then we plan to do some in the future. So as we visit future hotels, we'll do the same thing so that if you're interested in going to any of these, this might give you a better idea of what to expect and what was good and what was bad.
Right. And some are pretty far away where we want to go to in the future. We don't know if we'll ever get there, but there are some on our bucket list that we want to see. Um, so I guess we could start off, right, with our first one. And this was during COVID. We went to this in PA, Skytop, PA. It's called Skytop Lodge. And again, it's in Skytop, PA. And during the COVID crisis, things started opening up again. And Dorothy got, went out on their website and they were allowing guests back in. And I think it was like 25% occupancy. So we picked a weekend back in March, and it was what they called their mud weekend. Basically, up in Skytop, PA, there's a lot of snow. Uh, you know, things freeze over. So at that time, that weekend, they call it mud weekend, where things start to thaw. So we decided to go up there, and then also right before we went on the trip, we were offered an extra night stay for $100. Now, again, this was during COVID. This is a very expensive lodge, so we 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 bought into it, and we stayed 2 nights. Um, there's a lot of activities to do there. It's
And
almost
I would suggest if price is what is most important to you, the time that we went is a good time to get a good value because you are in transition between seasons. Probably that's the only time
right.
during the year that is that inexpensive. The rest of the time of the year it is very expensive, but the benefit of being there in season is there's so much to do. There's so many activities. This is a really old time lodge where it's kind of like Dirty Dancing, where you get to do all these different activities. There's boating, there's swimming, there's skiing,
But
there's
you
ice
have to.
skating, there's
There is a
biking.
price. There is a price, right?
There's a minimal price for some of the activities. Some of them are free,
Right.
like obviously your swimming and stuff. But the neat thing about it is you could spend all weekend doing all these different activities. When we were there, it was kind of in transition between winter to summer.
Yeah.
So some things weren't available. The ski slope, they have a ski slope that
Yeah.
you can go to.
Yeah.
It's small, but it's nice, especially if you're not an avid skier, if you want to just try it out for a couple hours.
Very inexpensive for the ski equipment too. I think it was like $10 for to rental of the ski equipment, and we were there the last day of the slope being open, and people were skiing.
Yeah, and they have things like ski shoot, where you
Oh,
shoot
skeet shooting.
skeet
Yeah,
shooting.
yeah, skeet shooting. But we did. They have a van that took us up the mountain and dropped us off. and we just and it's actually on our page if you want to see it. We walked through the woods, through all that ice, and there's some lookouts looking down at the lodge. We walked down through the woods and along the creeks and everything.
So just the trails alone would it took us all day to do the trails,
Yeah,
and we didn't even do all of them.
right,
And depending on the time of year, like if you go in the winter, you definitely want some winter boots because they do get snow. We were in transition and we were definitely not having the right foot gear because either snow or slush. We definitely needed boots at that time. We got lucky because it had gotten really cold the night before we were going on our hiking, so it was
right,
solid ice.
yeah,
So we just took our time, but you could spend all day, probably 2 full days, if you really wanted to do every trail that the resort has to offer.
right. So I'm showing some slides here, and I forgot to mention we do have a chat going. So if you have any questions, you can bring it up in the chat, and afterwards, this will be on the page, so you can see what people asked in the chat. But I'm showing the inside of the lodge, and it's almost like, to me, when you're in there, it's almost like The Shining, something like that. Um, it was cold up there, so they had the fireplace going. And you'll see there's some shots of our room. What did you think of the rooms, Darth?
The rooms were okay. The beautiful. I mean, gorgeous. The comparison between the different hotels, I would say for this hotel, we always get the lower end room just because most of our time is spent doing activities and
Right,
not being in the room.
right,
So our room was small. It was on one of the top floors in like an eave area. So we had a beautiful view, which was really nice, but it was a small room. It was beautifully decorated. It made you
right.
feel like you were walking back in time. It was
Yep.
very clean, very well kept. They give you an activity sheet every morning of activities that are going on in the hotel. But the room compared to some of the other hotels we were at, it was small. It was just one, I think either queen or king size bed. And the bathroom was small as well, but very
Yeah.
beautiful.
There is like an old fashioned elevator in there, that has the sliding gate, and it was in the back end of the hotel. But there are some restaurants, and again during COVID, 25% occupancy. The one restaurant you see in the shot there, that was where we ate at night, and there was one down in the lower level
They
that was almost like a pub.
Yeah, they actually have 7 different restaurants.
Yep.
Only a few were open to us. They have one that, yeah, is a pub. I thought the food was great. It was like burgers
Yep.
and fries and stuff. Then
Yeah.
they had a more like formal type restaurant, and the food there was delicious. That was more um, formal, with wait staff.
Yeah.
And then they have some other restaurants that we weren't able to go to they have a restaurant on the golf course, and they have a full golf course at this hotel. Also, walking paths that take you
Yeah.
around through the
Yeah,
golf
we did take a
course.
tour in the wasn't it like a wagon, like we
Yeah,
had a
they
wagon
they
tour.
do have a free tour that
Yeah,
if you do go, I recommend. They have some free stuff there. And this was a tour that you have to sign up for, and it did fill up. Even when we were there, it filled up. And it was free, and it was a horse-drawn wagon tour,
right.
and it took you all over the property and kind of gave you some history and background. The one thing that was interesting that they said on the tour was all the stones from the resort were dug up by the farms in the area.
Yep.
So it was all local stones that they pulled together to build the hotel.
Yeah, so I mean, I highly recommend this if you're in the Pennsylvania area. It's a great hotel. We visited it once and said, "Hey, why don't we try this out sometime?"
The other thing I liked about this
Yeah,
resort compared to a couple of the other ones is what Stan pointed out, the downstairs area. There is big fireplaces, lots of seating room, lots of areas to hang out. They have a big porch on the outside with rocking chairs, so you can sit out there. And every afternoon around 4 o'clock, I think it was.
Yeah.
They served free cookies
Yeah.
and beverage.
Yeah.
So every afternoon you could go down into the lobby area and you could sit and have your snack. It was free.
Yep.
I thought that the staff there was very friendly, very helpful. But the nice thing I like about Skytop Lodge, like I said before, is it's good for the whole family. It's expensive though, but you could stay at the lodge the whole weekend and just have tons of things to do.
Right. So I think, should we move on to the next one?
Sure.
So during this same time, down in, I know you've seen on Mr. Stan 913 our page that we show a lot of video of Cape May. Cape May, New Jersey. We want to recommend, if you ever have the chance to go to Cape May, beautiful town in Jersey, at the tip of New Jersey. Very historic, a lot of historic hotels. And there's a place there called Congress Hall. Congress Hall was something when we were first dating was just run down, wasn't even open. And it was bought, and now it is a beautiful hotel right along the ocean in Cape May. Great time in during the holidays. But we were offered, again, during COVID, we went down for one night and we stayed there in the hotel. What do you want to say about it, Dorothy?
Congress Hall, it gets its name, Congress, because early in the history of the country, a lot of presidents and people stayed at this hotel. So this was always a very wealthy hotel. And then it did become abandoned for a period of time. Congress Hall is compared to the last hotel we talked about. They do not have a grand lobby.
Yeah.
It's more, to me, a feeling of a couples resort as opposed to a family resort. Not to say you can't take your family here, but it's more shopping. There are beaches there, but the beaches aren't, they're not beautiful. They're kind of rocky and stony, but still nice to do. There's plenty of stuff to do in the town, but for me, I get the feel of more of this is a couple's retreat as opposed to a family place.
And you see in the shot here, a couple of the shots, you're seeing the lobby. That is the lobby. And then that long corridor, there's some shops inside you can look at. There are some restaurants.
Definitely more to do in the summertime, spring, summer, and fall than in the dead of winter. And it does sit right by the ocean. You can, they have a whole bunch of chairs on their lawn, and you can sit out there and they'll serve drinks out there. And you can watch the sunset or the sunrise.
One thing about a sunset there is in Cape May too, there's Sunset Beach. I did post a video on my site that there is a thing called Sunset Beach where at night you can watch the sunset, and everybody in the summertime goes there. And you get your Cape May diamonds there. They're known for Cape May diamonds. Along the beach you can find Cape May diamonds in the sand. But let's talk about the rooms, Darth. What did you think about the rooms? And this is a shot of our room that we had. Kind of funny.
The rooms, again, are on the small side. For if you're going for like an economy type room. The bathroom was small. It was very clean. The neatest thing I thought about the room is they still use the old keys. So you actually get a physical key to open your door. Our view there, though, was not nice. We overlooked
the
air conditioning units. So yeah, if you go for like an economy type room, you're probably not going to get a good view. But the funniest thing we laugh about this hotel is how crooked it is. We discovered at the Grand Hotel, which we'll talk about in the future, that some of these grand hotels that were built on a really low budget and built very quickly because they were supported by the train companies, and the train companies just needed an end place for people to come and visit. And in this hotel, you can definitely see how crooked everything is. So we kind of chuckled about that.
You can see in the shot here where the chairs are along the flagpole there. That's what looks out to the ocean. And that's not an ocean shot. That is at sunset Beach, which a lot of people flock to in the summer and fall and winter. People go there, but it's a great hotel. Christmas time is beautiful there, very decorated. A lot that goes on in Cape May, a parade, a tree lighting. It's just a lot going on in Cape May, all the way up to past January. And I think
Yeah.
some things close down after January, and then things start popping up again, opening up around Easter time. But we're always in Cape May. We love Cape May.
So your best time to go if you want the best value, obviously, is in the winter months. Peak season would be anytime, probably starting in June all the way through Christmas.
Right.
They do have several restaurants in Congress Hall. Probably, I think there's like 5. We did not eat in any of the restaurants. They are somewhat pricey. And the thing about Cape May is there's so many restaurants right in walking distance that you can choose from. So if you don't want to spend the money or don't feel like eating in the hotel, you have tons of options down by the beach in a shopping district in Washington Square. There is probably 4 blocks of shopping, little boutiques, unique type stores, not chain stores. There's also antiquing in Cape May, so there's probably about 10 or so really nice antique stores. And then you have historic things like the lighthouse and Cape May Point. There's carriage rides.
Yep.
They have a really good historical society also that gives tours, ghost tours. Cape May is very haunted.
Yes.
The whole town is haunted, and they have really nice ghost tours that we've been on, as well as historic tours.
So, yeah, I mean, that was our second hotel that we visited. So, we ready to move on to the next one?
Yep.
All right. So, to me, and I'm going to say right now on our list, this is my cream of the crop, the Grand Hotel, Mackinac Island, Michigan. This was a dream of mine ever since I was younger. There's a movie from 1980 with Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour called Somewhere in Time that was filmed at this hotel, filmed on this island. And it was a dream of mine to always go to this hotel. So we had the opportunity to go to this hotel. And let me tell you, it is spectacular. The island itself is no cars. You take a ferry over, you're on the island. It's all horseback and buggy, horse and buggy. You need a cab, it's horse and buggy. Or you can rent a pedal bike. And we did that. There's so much activity to do there. The pedal biking alone, 8 miles around the island, no hills, right along the lakes. It is absolutely beautiful.
You can do the biking. We didn't like go crazy biking around, but you could definitely do it within an hour.
Yes.
You rent your bikes by the hour, and we weren't really sure how long to rent it. But it's you can take a nice bike ride around in that period of time.
And the ferry ride we took over was a special one that went under the bridge, the Mackinac Bridge, right?
Yeah, you can take, there's 2 options for your ferry coming over. You can take like a direct route, which is quick, which we did one way. And then there's a route where they go like under the bridge, which that's like one of the largest bridges.
Yeah.
In the country. So it's definitely worthwhile seeing. Just doing one way though, you don't need to do both ways that way.
Once you're on the island, though, it feels to me like you're in a whole different world, and the people actually live there year round.
However, the hotel is only open.
Yes.
It's opening in May, beginning of May, and it closes the end of October. And the only discounted time is the month of May.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the time, you'll find the prices double. We did decide to go in May, and I have to say, I don't feel like I was missing anything as opposed to like the first hotel we went to, because it's cold on Mackinac Island.
Yes.
We checked the weather out for the whole season after we went, and it never really warms up. So they do have a beautiful pool, and I'm sure it's heated, but it would have never been warm enough there for me to really want to go swimming and sitting, by the pool. So everything else was pretty up and functioning. So I didn't feel like we missed anything by going at that earlier time.
So we're looking at the room here, and and well, I'll move to the next slide, but let's talk about the rooms real quick.
Yeah, the rooms were large. We did get the lowest priced room, and
Right.
it was huge. And we had a little balcony that
Yeah.
overlooked the area. So
Yeah.
I thought the rooms were magnificent, and each room is decorated differently. We traveled with another couple, and our room looked totally different than their room.
Yes.
And they're all just really unique and very crazily decorated, but I loved it. It was beautiful.
And if you are a fan of the movie that I talked about, there is a map they give you that you can go around the island and see where they filmed this movie in 1980. And actually, there is a suite up on one of the top floors where I think they stay or where it was filmed for the movie.
It's named after. It's the Seymour.
Somewhere in time suite. But let's move on to the next slide here. And this is something that Dorothy wanted to do, and pretty pricey. She'll tell you how much, but I think during the near like 4 or 5 o'clock, they serve this to,
They have, I think it was like 3 o'clock, three or 4. It was high tea. It's served in the lobby. It wasn't real clear when we were reading it online, but it is served in the lobby, and you don't have to sign up for it in advance. You just sit in the lobby, and a waitress comes around and asks you if you're interested in tea. It is $80 a person. I would highly recommend doing it, but
it was tea and something else, though.
What Stan and I did was we split it. It's so much food. A lot of people, I was watching, a lot of people around us were doing individual, but we split it. The lowest level tier was sandwiches.
Yes.
And then the middle tier and the top tier were desserts. So it was things like truffles and macarons. There was a scone with some cream.
Right.
And then it came with unlimited tea and 2 glasses of wine or something.
Yeah, I drank that.
It might have been sherry. I don't know. It was something like that. But between the two of us, we split it, and it was more than enough food. But it was just such a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
I ordered it. So the waitress came and put a napkin on my lap and poured the tea. And it was just so much fun to do. And their lobby is huge as well.
Yeah.
Beautiful you can really get lost in their lobbies. It's actually kind of 2 floors.
Well,
and they have the largest porch of any hotel, and they have rocking chairs lining the whole way.
Well, you're talking about the lobby. How about the dining hall? How long it was? It just went on and on and on. And now, they have a huge buffet there too in the morning, right?
Yeah, the breakfast is nice. The breakfast is a buffet, but it's also on the menu. So you can order something off the menu as well as use the buffet.
Right.
And it was really good foods. It wasn't like tons of food, but it was good quality, nice selection of foods. And the other thing they do offer is they offer a meal plan, where if you are going to eat all your meals in the hotel, it's definitely worthwhile. We didn't do the meal plan because we just weren't sure what we were going to do. And then we ended up eating dinner in the hotel one night unplanned. And so we should have gotten the meal plan. If you're going to eat a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, definitely get the meal plan. But just like Cape May, there are so many restaurants out there to choose from. We went to a restaurant called...
Oh, I forget. I don't remember.
I forget, but there's so many restaurants on the island.
We didn't mention either that, we forgot to mention this, is that I think it was 5:30, you have to dress, men have to dress in a shirt and a tie and a suit coat, and women have to have, was it like a dress or a formal dress?
Slacks or dress. And again, I wasn't sure how people were going to dress, but I have to say girls were dressed in floor-length dresses.
Yeah.
And men were wearing shirts, ties, and suit coats.
Yeah.
So it is kind of a formal, and if I had to do that over again, I probably would have worn something a little bit more formal.
And you're seeing in the shots here of that ship. That is a ship that goes through the Great Lakes, and that stops on Mackinac Island, and people come across off the ship and they visit the island for the day. Also, there's a chandelier shot here. That's in the lookout. It's basically like a bar up there that you can sit up there at night and watch the sunset, and they serve drinks and I think some finger foods too, right, Dorothy?
Yeah, yeah. I highly recommend doing that. That was a really fun experience.
Yeah, and then they have somebody playing up there on a piano. I think I remember,
Hmm.
right? But again, oh, we forgot to mention the fort. There's a fort on the island, right?
Yeah, there's a lot to see and do. You could spend easily like 3 days here and probably still not do everything that's on the island.
Right.
We biked. The other thing we did was you can rent your own horse and carriage, um,
Yep.
and take it for a run. They give you a crash course on how to handle your horse,
Yep.
and then they send you on your way. It takes about an hour to get all the way around. You have to follow a certain path, and you want to make sure you stay on that path. We had somebody in front of us
Yeah.
go off the path, and what the problem is it's challenging to get a horse down a hill
Right.
because the carriage pushes against the horse, and so if you're inexperienced, your horse can become really unhappy.
Yeah, and then on the fort, they do demonstrations of gun shooting and a cannon. They shoot a cannon off at a certain time of day. So check the times of when that happens so you can get to the fort. It wasn't
And
that
there's
expensive, right?
no,
Oh no, it was part of the
it was
something part of
part
the
it
hotel,
was
right?
part of the hotel. We got to go to the fort for free.
Right,
The carriage ride was a little pricey.
right.
The bikes were pretty reasonable. And if you're going to do the somewhere in time, if you're interested in seeing all the locations, a couple things. One, definitely rent a bike to do it
Yep.
because they're not as close together as you think.
Yeah.
And secondly, the maps are very hard to understand. It took us a little while to find the gazebo.
Yeah, the gazebo was moved actually from the spot where they filmed the movie up to on top of the mountain back in this wooded area, and we found the gazebo.
Yeah, so we had to ask several people. Looking at the map isn't the best.
Yeah.
It's kind of not to scale to speak. So you have to ask a lot of people if you want to find the spots.
Right. But again, beautiful hotel, bucket list.
Oh, there's also we
Yeah.
did a tour, a tour. It's horse drawn, of course,
Yeah.
through the woods,
Yes.
and that I highly recommend. They take you to a spot that's supposed to be the best picture spot,
Yep.
and it was beautiful. But if you don't do that, you also, if you bike around the island, you would get the opportunity to see it biking if you
I
don't want to do
recommend the
the
biking.
horse
The
drawn.
biking is so easy to do. There is really one hill at the end, but it's really nothing. It's easy to go up the hill, but talk about the bugs.
Yeah, May, that is the only downfall of going in May is May has mayflies, and I never knew what a mayfly was. Well, when they hatch, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. They're attracted to water, so downtown area wasn't as bad as like our bike ride. Anywhere where you got closer to the water is where they really were.
Yeah.
They were early, so they weren't supposed to be there the weekend we were there, but I would guess anytime in May you might risk the mayflies.
Right.
They don't bite or anything, but they're just like these little gnats that are just
Right.
hundreds, thousands.
Yeah, and then the one thing about the ferry I wanted to bring up is that if you're staying on the island, when you get on the ferry, it's almost like you're going on a cruise. They take your luggage and ask where you're staying, and you tell them we're staying at the Grand Hotel. They tag your luggage. You get on the ferry. You don't see your luggage until you get to your room. And again, the luggage is taken to the hotel, horse and carriage.
And they pick it up the same way the morning that
Yep.
you're leaving. You leave it outside your room. And everything is easily in walking distance. The one thing to be aware of is taxis are horse-drawn taxis, and they do take a little bit of time. So if you have a dinner reservation and want to take the taxi,
Yeah.
you want to make sure you leave ample, like an hour time frame, because the closer it gets to those busy time periods, you could be waiting a good amount of time for your taxi. And they do charge, but it's like minimal. Like I
Yeah.
want to say it was like between $5 and $10.
The Grand Hotel one though, their horse carriage was really beautiful.
Yeah, it's more expensive to take the Grand's taxi, but well worth it to do it at least one time. It's the only taxi that's closed. That's the other thing I'd recommend
Yeah.
if you're going here is bring a blanket, because
Yeah.
at night you're outside on a horse-drawn carriage. It's not enclosed, it's not heated.
It was
and
30 degrees when we were on it.
it was really cold, and there was a couple that was with us that had a blanket that they shared. You definitely need to dress warm. Even if it might get up into the 50s during the day, it could get down into the 30s at night.
I know we're really on this hotel a lot because we loved it. It's not saying that you have to take the carriage from the hotel into the town. You can walk down.
Yeah, everything's
It's not that far of a walk.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
But it's fun to at least do the Grand Hotel carriage at least once, just for the experience.
And there is a golf course, right? Of course, there's a huge golf course on the hotel property. And again, the pool was just opening when we were there. I was shocked that it was going to open in a week, and it was pretty cold. I think at the time we were there at home, we were getting 90-degree weather, and rare for our area. And we were in the 30s at night. And the sunset, how about that? It was like 10 o'clock because we were way above.
Yeah,
like
it was late. You're getting the same weather that you'd get in like Quebec.
Yeah.
That's how far up north you are.
Yeah, but it was a great time. And our next hotel that we stayed at just recently, as a matter of fact, is in Bethlehem, PA. It's the Historic Hotel Bethlehem. This is a town. It's in PA. It was a steel town. And this hotel's been here for, oh God, how many years, Darth?
It was the deceiving thing, the thing that disappointed me. The first 3 hotels we stayed at were original hotels, the original structure. The problem with the Bethlehem Hotel is it was redone 3 times. So the original 1800s hotel was knocked down, and then it was rebuilt, and then it was knocked down again in the early 1900s. So it's still old, but it doesn't give you that same feel that the first 3 hotels did.
Right.
It doesn't have the grand entrance or the porches. The original hotel, you'll see it in the lobby. Definitely had this similar feel to like the one down in Cape May.
Right.
But unfortunately, it was lost when they redid the hotel.
Right. There are some restaurants in there. There's parking in the back. We parked the car.
This is probably the smallest of the hotels.
Yeah.
So the lobby, again, is small. Restaurants are very limited, but I have to say we had breakfast there, and I wished we had eaten dinner because our breakfast was amazing.
Yeah, I think we have a shot of the breakfast here in the next shot. Well, let's talk about the room, Darth.
The room was small but very nice. It was definitely bigger than the one up in the Poconos, but definitely smaller than the Grand.
Right.
Very clean, very nicely kept.
There's the breakfast shot right there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's the breakfast.
That was to die for. And the way they bring it out on a cart with the heat warmer, so they, lift off the cover. It was just a beautiful presentation, and the food itself was beautiful.
And one thing we want to mention too is at the time we went was I think it was we stayed Super Bowl weekend.
It was Valentine's weekend.
Right, but it was Super Bowl weekend, and we went Saturday night, and then we left on Super Bowl Sunday. It's very hot in the hotel. It's because it's an old hotel. It's a regular centralized heating where it was like 80 degrees in our room, and we kind of figured out why they let us open the windows, and our window was in a crack, and it still was hot.
So the higher up you are, we were at the top floor.
Yeah.
And the higher up you are, the hotter it's going to get. So be prepared, and you can open the windows to cool it down. Now, this is the only hotel I would say would be a one-night stay.
Yep.
Or 2, depending if they have casinos in the area. They also have an outlet mall in the area, so if you're into that kind of stuff. But if you're just going for the local experience, it's really limited to probably a block.
Right.
They have a lot of cute, unique
Shops,
shops
right? And,
right where the hotel is.
yep.
But beyond that, it's not really that nice.
Yeah.
They have a map that they give you that's kind of deceiving because they mark off another shopping area, and we drove to it,
It was near
and
Lehigh University.
yeah, and it wasn't. It there was nothing there.
There were so many barber shops. I think if I stopped in each barber shop and got a clip, I would have had my hair cut done after the 8th shop.
Yeah, it was a lot of barbershops. Not a lot to do other than that. Now, their biggest time of year is Christmas.
Yeah.
But from people I've known that have gone at Christmas time, they say it's beautiful, but it's so packed.
Yeah.
So you're paying a lot of
Well,
money, and it's not a very large hotel, so it's crowded.
and there is a video on Mr. Stan 913 that we went up at Christmas time, and there is a huge Christmas craft.
It's called Christ Kindle Mart.
Yes.
And it's all like crafters, and it's really big. It took us a couple hours to get through. So if you're interested in doing that and want to stay at this hotel, you definitely need to book in advance because it sells out at Christmas time.
And it's 4 weeks long. Like I think it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday during the holidays. And it's in the steel mill. So that's the most amazing thing to see. And the steel mill is still there. And they're actually building things around the steel mill. And it is really cool looking when you see the steel mill.
And they also, Bethlehem does a nice job in the area that Christ Kindle Mart is, that they do a lot of events and stuff. So there may be a concert or an event that you're interested in going to that may take up like a whole day. I know they have a summer concert there that they block off streets. So that may be something else that you might be interested in. The city does a nice job with that kind of stuff.
A lot of chocolate shops too.
Yeah, a lot of chocolate shops.
We ate at an Italian restaurant, and I think I learned my lesson because when the food, it's right on that block where all the shops are. And I think I learned my lesson that, we could have split a meal. That's how much was in my meal. There was a lot of chicken in my meal, and we could have split a meal. We could have split a salad and a meal together.
And the other thing that is there, not at the time of year that we were there, but there's a lot of historical spots right around the hotel that you could, there was like a blacksmith shop, and they do blacksmith in the summertime. So if you go in the summer, you probably have a lot to see and do historically if you're interested in taking tours. Unfortunately, we were going to take a tour, and it was closed because they were refurbishing it. It was not a brewery, but a place where they made whiskey or something.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we didn't get to do any touring, but there is a significant amount there.
Yes, it was a nice, and it wasn't a far ride. Again, we stayed overnight, and it was a lot of fun.
And there was, if you're into antiquing, not right in Bethlehem, but we did find some really nice antique shops right around the area.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a ride, maybe 20, 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that one
nice
was really,
ones.
you could have spent hours in the one we were in. It was like a huge warehouse of just antiques.
So if you're interested in following our journey, we are going to continue to do some historical hotels. We do have one booked for this fall, so stay tuned for that. We'll be posting a review of that.
Right. And that was it for our hotels, but there is some other topics that, you could see on our page. Again, we do crafts, travel. I think right now Dorothy's doing some crafts on ladybugs and garlands. What else do you have coming on some of your crafts?
I'm going to be highlighting some crafts I'm doing for my daughter's college graduation. So centerpieces, some fun stuff with that.
Yeah, and the travel, again, whenever we're out, besides the hotels, if there's something we're doing on one of our trips, I like to video to let you guys see some things that you can go visit. And again, on the product demo, anything I buy or anything, like my recent one was the level and stud finder. That was something for when we were re-wallpapering our dining room and living room. And there is a video of how Dorothy does that too as well, using a steamer and how she wallpapers. But whenever we get a new product and I feel it's good for you guys to see, I will post it on the page. But again, this is our first live stream. And if you liked it, and it's going to be replayed on the page, if you liked it, please give us a thumbs up. Let us know what we can do better at. And this is
and what you might want to see as a future live
yeah,
stream.
yeah, future live stream. I hope this goes well. I hope you guys liked it. Many thanks, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching, and please check out Mr. Stan 913. Take care now.